friends. A few people have asked me to do a video of how I make my oatmeal in the morning. I start out with a 1/4 cup of oats. I just buy it in bulk at Sprouts for about 50 cents a pound. Sometimes it's a little bit more, but when it's on sale for 50 cents a pound, I stock up and I just keep it in this glass jar that has a screw top lid that keeps any bugs or weevils and stuff out. If you have too much of a problem in your area with bugs and weevils getting into the dry goods, add a couple of bay leaves in there and that will also deter that. But the screw top lid really helps. The kind with the rubber lid, they always seem to be able to get in there. When I lived in New York, it was a big problem. I don't have as much of a problem here in Kansas, but just telling you, when I lived in big co-op in New York, it was the second largest co-op in the world, bugs and stuff was sometimes a problem. So I found the rubber top does not keep them out, but the screw top does. So anyway, and I just leave my 1/4 cup measuring cup in there, and that way it's just easy. And I just get those from the Dollar Tree. That way I can't have tons of them. And so anyway, I put a 1/4 cup of oats in there. Then I always use the coffee pot for this. I don't really brew coffee in this coffee pot. I just use water. But if you have a Keurig or anything like that, it also makes really hot water. And so just a second, let me go get that. So I have my coffee pot water, and I just put about, I think that's about 1/3 of a cup, but I don't know. Just look. It's just a little bit covering over the oats, not much more than that. Just enough to cover the oats, and maybe a little bit more. Then, this morning, I'm going to use some pumpkin puree. This is probably about 1/4 of a cup. And it's puree. It is not the pumpkin pie filling, which has other stuff added to it. This is just the puree. And then, so no sugar or anything else is added. Then I like to use my Bragg's nutritional yeast. And I don't really measure it. I just pour a little bit in there. It's probably a 1/2 tablespoon to a tablespoon. Somewhere between a 1/2 and a full tablespoon. Then I use some chia seeds and some flax seeds. That one's coming off a little bit. I need to put a new label on it. But anyway, chia and flax, I use a 1/2 teaspoon each. And then I just sweeten it with Splenda or stevia, whatever I have that morning today. I have both. And just sweeten it as much as you want. It's up to you. And I use a little bit of pink Himalayan salt as well. This is the pink Himalayan salt. I also get it out of the bulk bins at Sprouts as well for really inexpensive. It's like, I don't know, maybe $1 a pound, if that. I don't think it's much more than that if it is. But that's about the price it is. Then I put this in the microwave for 2 minutes. Now, one thing to notice is the size of this bowl versus how much stuff is in there. You need a much larger bowl than the amount of stuff you are putting in there when it's oatmeal in the microwave. The microwave always makes the oatmeal boil out. Now, you need to watch your microwave. I can put this one in there for 2 minutes at this amount full without it boiling over, although it will come up to this very top. So you want to set and watch yours until you figure out the size of bowl to the amount of oatmeal you can put in yours and for how long. Because it's very easy for it just to boil out and it will just be all over your microwave and bowl, and it's a big fat mess. So be very careful with that. So, okay, I only have one hand to do this, so I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to add my flax and my chia seed to it. Like I said, I keep my little teaspoons in here. I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon of each to it. And then I'm going to put it in the microwave for 2 minutes in my microwave. But like I said, yours may be different, so you need to watch it. Okay, so I've put this in the microwave for 2 minutes. And as you can see, it's pretty thick now. And it will be, because I didn't use a whole lot of water. Then I add a little bit of almond coconut milk. And yet, any brand will do. Just try to make sure it's unsweetened. The sweetened ones will have a lot more calories, so just try to get the unsweetened. And then I just put a splash. That may be like 1/4 of a cup at most. Maybe only even 1/8 of a cup. This is not much. And then I stir it around. And I put it back in the microwave for another minute. And then I just keep watching it. Again, the first microwave time usually does not get as much boiled over, but it could. It depends on how big your bowl is compared to how much oatmeal and stuff you put in there. It could still overboil that first time, but after the first time, it's even more of a risk to overboil. So you really need to watch it when it's in until you figure out your microwave. And sometimes even day to day, sometimes the power surges go up or down. If you have kind of finicky electricity, you never know what the power surge is going to be that way. That day, like when I lived in New York, like I said before, we lived in the second largest co-op in the world, and they had their own power plant. And sometimes the guy who was in charge of the power plant, you know, some worker, they didn't always do their job in making sure that the power was even. So they were supposed to watch this clock thing and see how fast it was going, but sometimes they wouldn't. So sometimes the power would be down further and sometimes up further. And we could tell because our clocks at home that you have plugged in, like your oven clock, if the power was really high that day, the clock would be speed ahead in minutes. Like, you know, it could be a whole hour and a half ahead if the power was really high that day. But if the power was low, then it slowed down the clock and the clock would be behind. So I haven't found that much in homes that I've lived in, but that did happen at the co-op where we had our own power plant, and the person in charge did not make sure the power was even, because they're supposed to watch this little thermometer. Yeah, when we lived in a co-op, you partially owned the power plant, so you were able to go over there and take a tour and hear all about how the power plant works. So anyway, they told us all this during the, whatever you call it, when you first learn what you're doing living there and buying into the co-op. Orientation, there we go. You learn all this in orientation when you live there. So anyway, power is supposed to be up and down, but sometimes it'd be one way or the other, or either too much or too little. So anyway, that can affect how hot the microwave goes too. It somehow affects the wattages it cooks at. So if it was a slow day, it may take 4 minutes to make your microwave. To make your microwave cook your oatmeal. But if it was a too high of a day with the wattage, it may make your oatmeal cook in 1 minute. You know, so anyway, you got to kind of watch that. So it's hard for me to tell you at home how your microwave and how your power source is going to do the oatmeal compared to mine. I only can know mine. So you have to kind of watch yours to figure it out for yours. So this is my oatmeal. It's all done. I've done it in the microwave, like I said, for another minute. And then, oops, I forgot. I was going to add just a little bit of sugar-free chocolate syrup this morning. Just a minute. So this is the sugar-free Hershey's chocolate syrup I'm going to add. I'm going to have quite a bit for 0 points because it's very low in calories. I'm trying to get it to focus, but it's not really. But anyway, it's only 5 calories per tablespoon. I'm not even going to use probably a whole tablespoon. But because it's so low in points and you can have so much for 1 point or 0 points even, I'm not even going to measure it. But I will show you about what I do. I just squeeze a little bit. And like I said, it's not even a tablespoon that I'm going to use. So, but if you don't know your measurements very well by sight, then you may want to measure it just to make sure until you get used to the sight of what a tablespoon looks like. This is probably about a half a tablespoon, probably. I don't think it's more than 2 or 3 teaspoons. So anyway, that's my oatmeal. This is the pumpkin. Sometimes instead of pumpkin, I will use some fruit like frozen blueberries or frozen strawberries. Sometimes I cut up an apple and add some cinnamon. Just any, you can use a banana. Really, you can just use all kinds of stuff to make your oatmeal bulk it up. And this is only 2 points. Again, just start with a 1/4 cup of the dry oats, and then you use look at your free list of, or the 0 point list of fruits and vegetables, and think about what would be good in what you would like in yours, and just bulk it up. And like I said, add a little bit more water and a little splash of the coconut milk, because the amount I used is 0 points. It was, like I said, maybe a 1/4 cup, if that, probably closer to 1/8 cup. But all that little bit, it keeps bulking it up, making it bigger and bigger. And you don't need a whole 1/2 cup of the dry oats, which a 1/2 cup of dry oats is 5 points instead of 4 points, where a 1/4 cup's only 2 points. So I like to keep it to 2 points. But even at 5 points, you could make a huge bowl for 5 points. But this is a pretty satisfying bowl to me for 2 points. But like I said, just keep looking at all your fruits that you have and what you think would be good, and try different combos. Like I said, you can also add a teaspoon of nuts, like teaspoon of almonds, a teaspoon of pumpkin seeds, a teaspoon of pecans. I would just leave it to 1 teaspoon of one kind of nut, though. I wouldn't use a variety of them. But, you know, or seeds. And just, again, that little bit of extra fat and protein in the nuts will make it seem like a lot more food and give you a lot more filling of a bowl of oatmeal for less points.